The question that we're going to dig into today is I was wondering if you could tell our audience, our attendees here, about an interesting or challenging application that you've worked with in the last few months, and just talk about the technology, maybe the problem, and what you've solved with it. And so, Jesse, we're going to go to you first.
All right, thank you. Over the past few months, we've been working with one of our system integrators on a redesign of a famous audio uh, symphony building up in San Francisco, and it's historical infrastructure that couldn't really. It's not a greenfield installation to be retrofitted, so there's a limited amount of fiber available. So what we did was connect the control room down to the stage and a few other locations on premise via CWDM for the most part. There was a lot of 12G SDI going back and forth from PTZ cameras. And then there was quite a bit of audio, AES audio, analog audio, gigabit Ethernet. There's Genlock requirements. So we leveraged our OG 4600 card, which supports everything I just mentioned, and including serial data, GPIOs. It's a very capable single card solution that we leverage to connect all of the POPs, all of the areas that needed the signal IO on premise. And we also leveraged a ROS MUX, CWDM MUX card to go along with the installation. We wanted to keep everything openGear. So through that, we also leveraged some of our distribution amps for analog audio and AES and Genlock and a composite analog DA we have. So we were able to meet all the requirements in openGear, and it was about as dense as a solution as you can get. So small footprint available for us to do the work, and we met that requirement, and we also leveraged as few fibers as possible. So there's expansion capabilities within this venue. So it was a pretty exciting project for us to be part of, and we'll have some articles out before too long.
So, can you talk about roughly how many fibers you did end up using in that project?
I believe it was less than 12, for a TAC 12. And there was quite a few. We actually furnished the SFPs, 12G SFPs for use in some third-party cameras and Panasonic PTZ cameras. And then we muxed that to, take advantage of CWDM. Those were all CWDM SFPs that we put into the cameras. So there's quite a lot of signal requirements that we fit within 12 fibers.
Nice. And so you had CWDM SFPs in the cameras, and about how many cameras in this
I,
setup?
I believe it was 12 cameras
Okay.
in particular. Yeah.
So to correspond with the fibers then. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can get all 12 of those cameras over a single fiber and still have 6 wavelengths to work with. Per fiber, you got 18 wavelengths to work with. So it's quite capable. And then the openGear card, which I'll have some slides on later, is it's 412Gs per board, and you also have 8 audio channels, bidirectional, gigabit Ethernet, serial. All the signals I mentioned earlier are available over single fiber out of that one card. So the high capacity all in one card set in openGear.
I love that. So on-prem Symphony system, super interesting. And maybe we can update the openGear Ultimate Applications Guide with that application, because that's really great, Jesse. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
sure thing.
Let's go to Ciro. Same question for you, Ciro. Tell us about a challenging application or interesting technology that's come up recently that you got to work on, and what the problem was and how you solved it.
So what I want to talk about is HDR, and more specifically SL HDR1, which is a part of ATSC 3.0, and we are involved in that, although I can't give names. But it is said that, okay, there was this big deal when you went from SD to HD, and then everybody could say that was great. Now, what's next? 4K is not that big of a jump. I mean, people want to think that is, but the thing that is making a difference, visible difference that people can see in their homes is HDR. And there's this very interesting technology called SL-HDR1, where you take the HDR signal and you create from it an SDR signal with metadata that allows you to recreate the HDR signal. And the cool thing about that is that that signal is then compatible with legacy stuff. So it's just like when color TV showed up, right? For you who are like analog engineers, you remember this black and white and a color subcarrier, and if it wasn't a color set, you didn't get a color subcarrier. Same idea here. You have metadata in the stream, and if you don't know what that is, then you don't know what the HDR is, but you should get a nice SDR stream that you can play. So it's very nice technology. It's a standard, and the standards for mapping it are ready, or have been ready for a while. So in the baseband world is Sept 2108, which was actually shared by one of my colleagues here at Cobalt. And in a compressed stream is for both H.264 and HEVC, that's carried in what's called the SAY message, stream enhancement information message. So you can carry this thing in both ways, and gives you an end-to-end workflow that's compatible with both SDR and HDR. You do everything in HDR, and then we emit something that's compatible with both at the other end. And Cobalt makes actually two cards that do that. We have the baseband side on the 9904, and we have the compressed side on the our encoders and decoders that do 2108 to say and vice versa. And one very interesting thing that's not intuitive is that if you're transporting HDR, going down to SDR, transporting HDR over a compressed link, going down to SDR and throwing the metadata gives you a bandwidth advantage, which is not intuitive. There's a bandwidth advantage. So we published a paper on the SVG Sports Tech Journal, the fall edition, with the numbers on that, with some study with actual measurements. So you can check out a, let's say, summary version of that paper in the SVG Sports Tech Journal, and you can download a complete version, a very detailed version with all the plots and all the little details from the white paper section of the Cobalt website. So that's a technology that we are very excited about. Our customers are deploying, and since I cannot not talk about wrist, you put this in an encoder, you send it over the internet, right? I got to plug it because I work on that stuff.
All right, Kevin at VTech, tell us about an interesting or challenging application or technology. We'd love to hear it.
It's really great to be here today and with these esteemed colleagues and talk about what we're doing here. Anybody who knows me, and most people here do know me for a long time, knows that I'm a fairly aggressive individual. And when I get my hands around the ankles of somebody or something, I don't let go for a very long time. Either it dies or I die. And so today I'm going to take advantage of this venue, and I'm actually going to talk about really 3, and I'll try to slide in 4, what I consider to be significant fun events that were, where openGear was front and center. The first is, football games are won on the line of scrimmage. A bunch of big guys on 2 sides. The biggest of the big guys that makes a hole lets a little guy like me shoot through the hole, and the little guy's the star, right? openGear in this example is a lineman, right? It's this big block. It's this big block that lets you put in these cards from different vendors for different applications to solve many complex problems. I'm going to talk about this election cycle we have going on right now. And there are 2 basically political parties in America that are kind of sort of going at it, right? And we were involved with 2 of them. I'm going to talk about one of them because it was the funnest of the event. So this is the Republican National Convention, and there is a fort called Fort McHenry, which is outside of Baltimore. Famous for the Star Spangled Banner, you know, talking about the fireworks, and in the morning, the smoke settles and the flag is still there. So Vice President Pence was speaking from there over to the White House, and there was contribution all over the country. And VTech was a huge part of that entire convention. And so we had 16 encode channels at the Fort McHenry facility, and there was 1,000 feet of Cat5 cable. I'm sure that there were some junction points made at some point from the openGear frame, which was an OGX frame with 16 of the 9261 encoders sitting in there, pushing SRT across that single line from that controller card in there, 1,000 feet of RG45 and a Radio Shack antenna tower with a mast going up in the air with a line of sight microwave Ethernet link from the Fort McHenry facility over to the White House, actually the parking lot behind the White House. And at that parking lot behind the White House, we had 20 of the decoders in a single frame, providing the pool feeds for all of the news organizations globally. So the origination was on the 9261 encoders through an openGear frame across the long ass Ethernet cable with a very rickety antenna, line of sight microwave, and we measured the packet loss through the whole event. Average packet loss was over 10% on the microwave link, and we didn't drop a single frame of video over 4 days of transmission. So it was a successful testimonial. I'm sorry, Cyril, we didn't use wrist there. We'll use wrist soon. This was SRT. This was good old-fashioned interlaced AVC, pushing 10 megs per stream across a microwave IP link. So that's option one. That's the first event. And I'll speed this up some. Not as if I'm not going fast enough to begin with. Through one of VTech's strategic partners who provides broadcast services, the company was recently acquired by another broadcast services company. We were a major contributor to the entire NFL draft. We had openGear frames at places you can't believe, including Roger Goodell's home. And in Roger Goodell's home, he had the OGX frame with a lot of decoders. And those decoders that were sitting in there were our direct-to-web OTT decoders, and we were poaching streams from HLS, from RTMP, from SRT, from Zixi, you name it. And there was a lot of stream forwarding, as Richard calls it. I call it network protocol translation. That was a big part of that. We were doing a lot of Zixi to SRT, SRT to Zixi, Zixi to RTMP, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that cross-pollination of all of the formats, these protocols and containers and underlying codecs. The codecs are the easy part. It's the socket connections, it's the protocols, and it's the recovery that really makes the difference.
Aaron and Seth at Sencor.
Yeah, so I think for Sencor, it's been a lot of a mix of both adopting some new technologies, kind of in the state of the world. It's been a good opportunity for us to catch some new development, spend some time on some new things, but also do a lot of just niche changes and things like that to help our customers kind of move along and kind of keep up with the times. But one of the biggest ones that I wanted to highlight that I've been working on is BIS-CA descrambling. This has been a really hot topic for all of our European friends, just being able to descramble these new feeds. The EBU is mandating that all of receiver decoders and satellite and a lot of IP links be scrambled with this this new type of technology. So it's giving content providers a ton of control over who is actually receiving and able to actually descramble their content. And being that it's a pretty large departure from BIS-1 and even BIS-2 scrambling algorithms, we've been scrambling to actually get the technology put into all of our openGear receiver decoder cards. So that's been kind of a really big push for us. And I think we're really poised to be able to support all of our customers here in the next month or so as live events and stuff like that really start coming up with this new technology. So that was one of them, and I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, building off what Aaron said, Sencor has a very full-featured line of receiver decoders and already cover all the standards pretty much from A to Z. So we're really focusing on those niche applications and needs of customers in order to make our products fit into their designs and networks better. One of the other little development features we've done recently for a large corporate customer, wanting to simplify things with their employees being able to quickly and easily log into devices, adding corporate login support like TACACS to the products, through the openGear chassis and into the card. Web UIs gives us a lot of flexibility, makes it really easy to manage a large installation, to authenticate people and even keep track of what they're doing and what they're changing in the decoders and gateway products, so as to make sure nobody does any funny business there. So
network security is important.
yes.
And always is.
So those are two little things we wanted to highlight today for you all.
Yep.
I like it. And so have you seen a change or an uptick in the live events type of installations or systems going in right now? What changes are happening with live events right now for you?
I think they're definitely picking up. I mean, obviously, with the state of things, things are done a little bit differently, but definitely the security of all of those live events is even more so important, just because everybody's watching from home. But remote production's a big deal, of course, with new systems being built there. And again, BIS-TA is just one of those things that's kind of getting pulled in to enhance that security and give them more control, not only in remote situations, but even in their normal stand-up live events and stuff like that.
Allowing broadcast engineers to do their work from home or remote offices or outside of the typical office environment that they've been in certainly is a hot topic right now, and something we've been responding to quickly. So
we're going to go to Bill at Ross Video. And Bill, tell us about some interesting technology challenges, some stories out in the trenches right now with you.
Thanks, Cindy. I'm going to go a bit higher level. Well, actually, we have quite a bit of experience now with multiple customers struggling with the same challenge, and that is, how do I do my live production in this COVID reality we're living in now? In some cases, it was an on-site production. In others, it was a combination of on-site and remote, or REMI, where the feeds are brought to a central facility to produce the show. The big wrinkle was that was introduced by COVID is everybody's working at home. The talent, often multiple hosts in different locations, the director, the producer, the various operators, etc. How can everyone do their role from anywhere to produce a show like it was done before in the studio? That was the goal. Well, the solution remarkably started with Dashboard of all things, the same one used in openGear, which we use to connect, configure, and monitor all of our ROS equipment over IP. So check, all the equipment could be used remotely from anywhere, which is the case for our entire portfolio, openGear partner equipment, and any Dashboard-enabled partner devices. On top of this, ROS products and solutions are easily operated through remote applications, VPNs, video conferencing apps like Teams, Zoom, GoToMeeting, or Skype. Now it was just a matter of migrating tools and customer setups in a way that didn't impact how they did their work, which was accomplished via some dashboard setups, scripts, and a few simple custom panels. Then we had to ensure that the remote customer team would be able to communicate between different locations exactly how they would in a studio. This required bringing in an intercom system. Most of them already are designed to be used remotely, and many customers already are working with their favorite intercom partner, but that was a key part of the solution. Finally, we leveraged the large openGear ecosystem to help customers replace third-party equipment that didn't work well remotely, or to satisfy specific needs like encoding, decoding solutions that were available from openGear partners. Many of our solutions use cards from AJA, Cobalt, Sencor, and VTech, for example. The customers could also access all this equipment solutions via a web browser with specific setups that mimic what they were used to using in their studio. The end result is the production team was able to get a high quality, low latency video into their production environments from remote contributors with a very simple setup. As with any new process, there were a few small issues to work out. Troubleshooting, training, and setup was all accomplished remotely via TeamViewer. Incredibly, everything was done by by raw staff also working from their homes. What was amazing is how the whole process was seamless, and and we got such amazing feedback from the customers. So they really liked the solution. They really felt like they were back in their studios, yet everybody was working out of their homes. They were amazed that this could actually be done and they could put a live production out there.
Bill, awesome information right now, because what you're talking about with Remy and just having to do those live productions where you have the producer and director in different places from the talent and getting that all together. And I really enjoyed the part where you were talking about how the Ross video team's like in parallel or kind of in step with the customers, because you guys are at home too while you're creating this solution. Can you tell me a little bit more about how the dashboard configuration works, or how you did that?
It was a combination of resources we had in dashboard, writing some scripts. Each operator had their own way they organized their screen and the buttons they wanted to press and all this other stuff. And sometimes they're in other people's equipment and all that, and they wanted to mimic the exact same thing in dashboard, so we helped them out with that. We also leveraged our rocket surgery team to create specific layouts, triggering mechanisms, all that sort of stuff in a graphic fashion on dashboard that they could use. So in the end, they got a portal into something that looked like what they were using before. And we got the latency low enough that really they truly felt like they were in the studio, which they're really amazed at. And the other thing to remember, when this all started in March and April, the customers were scrambling and we were scrambling, because issues came up. Because I mean, as I mentioned in what I was talking about, is this is not simply a Remy situation, because everybody's working from a different location in their home, many times hundreds of miles away. So it's more like a distributed Remy, like a distributed team doing a remote production. And so there were a lot of things to be solved, and technologies were leveraged. Things that Kevin alluded to with SRT and all that stuff. We leveraged quite a few solutions to help enable this.
All right, we're going to go to Bryce with AJA Video and turn it over to you, Bryce.
Thanks very much, Cindy. Great to be with you today. And thanks to both yourself and Bill for making these kind of opportunities possible for everyone. So AJA has really dived in quite deep with openGear over the last few years. We have a bunch of infrastructure products, fiber products, and then one of our most successful ranges has been our range of scan converters, which are known as OG ROI cards. And the ROI stands for region of interest. And this ties into the little tale I have for you today in terms of a client of ours that reached out from Australia. So AFL is the Australian Football League. And they were looking to deal with the fact that sports wanted to continue, that there was a desire to be able to centralize, like a lot of people are doing, around a remote center. So they actually built something called the ARC, A-R-C, for Australian Football League Review Center. And what they decided to do was to utilize our ROI cards to help the refereeing that was going on. So both at the center and being inside an openGear frame, as we've all talked about, it meant our scan converters can also sit there alongside IP products from other vendors. And that's the whole point of openGear, right? You get to choose and mix and match. And it's greatly helped their ability for refereeing. It's helped with their ability to actually monitor that blown in material right there on the field for the folks having to do the refereeing. So you've got a big range of capabilities on both ends. And so Gravity Media was the system integrator there. And what they have done is effectively utilize this to create a working environment for those that are still doing these sports events. right? Right there, even though it's a smaller audience, and then centralizing the control with another openGear chassis back at the center with a smaller group of staff. And then from there, distributing that finished signal to folks watching all over the world in OTT. So it's openGear really bringing all sorts of great solutions together. And the whole point of these ROY scan cards is not just the ability to basically zoom in on a portion of the original signal, but the cameras are going to be all sorts of different types of cameras, maybe running at different frame rates, that type of thing. So it helps bring everything into the production delivery format as well, right? Because you can set the raster size you're going to, whether it's 720 or 1080. You can bring those frame rates under control. And it's this combination of our products, your products with some of the other vendors here today, bringing it all together. And again, just a 2RU, rack frame size. So they were able to handle tons of different cameras this way. They were able to bring it all together, and with it all centralized and dashboard central control, made it very easy to route the stuff backwards and forwards. And they've been thrilled with the results here because they've had to have less people on site. And the other key thing, as everyone looks at REMI, is how do you control this stuff? And the fact that dashboard and our own software and that type of thing is basically available through a web browser has been a huge benefit to everyone. So I think that's a great success during a time period where, things have been challenging for everyone. But the ability to have an ecosystem, and I'll talk about that further today in our session a little later, because we're also bringing Dante to SDI bridging with a new product we announced on Thursday. So I look forward to introducing all our viewers today to that a little bit later when Bob Huddleston joins me to talk about that.